From the price of your morning coffee to the craziness of the global stock exchange, there's this hidden code running everything. Well, today we're going to crack that code. We are diving deep into the absolute core of economics, demand and supply. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by meeting the two main players in this whole story. That's the buyers and the sellers. Then we'll figure out where they finally agree on a price. And lastly, we'll see what happens when the rules of the game suddenly change.
All right, first up, let's get inside the head of the consumer. This is all about why we decide to buy the things we buy.
Honestly, it all boils down to something you already know. It's this simple inverse relationship. When the price of something goes up, we tend to buy less of it. And when it gets cheaper, we buy more. It's super intuitive, but this simple idea is the bedrock of how we all behave as consumers.
Okay, this table, which we call a demand schedule, just puts some real numbers to that idea. Check it out. At a pretty steep $6 a cup, people only want 10 cups. But if you drop that price all the way down to $2, suddenly the demand triples to 30. That right there is the law of demand in action.
Now, this is where the real magic happens. We can translate that simple table into a universal language. Over on the left, we've got a neat little algebraic equation. But on the right, you get the visual, this downward sloping demand curve. That one line, it captures the entire relationship between the price of something and how much people are willing to buy. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Okay, so we get the buyers. But that's only half the story, right? Let's step behind the counter and look at this whole thing from the producer's point of view.
For suppliers, the logic is totally flipped. Think about it. A higher price means more potential profit, and that's a huge incentive to make and sell more stuff. But if the price drops, profits shrink, so they're going to supply less. It's a direct relationship. Price goes up, the quantity they supply goes up with it.
And our coffee supply schedule shows this perfectly. When the price is high at $6, cafes are pumped to supply 30 cups. But if that price tanks to just $2, well, it's barely worth their time, so they only make 10 available.
And yep, just like we did with demand, we can capture this entire relationship in an equation and its visual partner, the upward sloping supply curve. See how it moves in the total opposite direction of the demand curve we just saw? That's key. All right, so we've got these two opposing forces, right? Buyers, who always want lower prices, and sellers, who always want higher prices. So where do they meet? Let's bring them together and find that magic point where a deal actually gets made.
So here they are, our two key equations, side by side. Equilibrium? Well, that's the one special price and quantity where both sides are happy. It's the point where the amount people want to buy is exactly equal to the amount businesses want to sell.
And finding this sweet spot, it's not guesswork. It's a really simple three-step process. We just set our two equations equal to each other, solve for the price, and then plug that price back in to find the quantity. Let's do it right now.
Okay, step one, we set our demand equation equal to our supply equation. For step two, we just need to do a little algebra to get P by itself. So we'll move all the P's to one side and the numbers to the other. That gives us 50 equals 15P. Divide 50 by 15, and there it is. Our equilibrium price, we call it P star, is $3.33.
And for the final step, we take that magic price and plug it back into either one of the original equations. Doesn't matter which one, you'll get the same answer. And what do we find? At that price, our equilibrium quantity is about 23 cups of coffee. That is the point where this market is perfectly balanced.
But of course, the real world is messy. It's not static. Things are always changing, right? Tastes change, incomes change, new technology comes along. So let's see how our model handles all that chaos using a really powerful four-step process.
Okay, so lots of different things can change the entire demand relationship at every single price. We call these things shifters. So for example, just imagine a new study comes out tomorrow that says coffee prevents aging. What happens? Well, that changes people's tastes, and suddenly more people want coffee at any price, which is going to shift the entire demand curve.
So the next time you hear something on the news that might affect a market, this four-step process right here is your new mental toolkit. You just start with your basic graph, figure out if it's a supply or demand thing, draw the shift, and then find the new balancing point. Simple as that.
Let's actually apply it. So that positive health news hits and demand for coffee skyrockets. This shifts the whole demand curve over to the right. And now just look at our new equilibrium. The spot where the lines cross has moved. So what's the result? Both the price of coffee and the number of cups sold have gone up. The market has instantly adjusted to this new reality.
All right, for our last section, let's explore what happens when the price isn't set by this natural dance between buyers and sellers, but by an outside force, like the government. So, a price ceiling is exactly what it sounds like. It's a legal maximum, a cap, on how high a price can go. But here's the really crucial detail, and you've got to remember this. For a price ceiling to actually do anything, it must be set below the natural market price. If it's set above, well, the market just doesn't care and operates as usual.
Okay, let's go back to our coffee market. We know the natural price is $3.33. But now, what if the government steps in and imposes a binding price ceiling of $2? Look what happens. At this new artificially low price, the market is immediately thrown completely out of whack.
Our equations show us exactly what the problem is. At just $2 a cup, consumers are thrilled. They want to buy 30 cups. But now look at the suppliers. At that low price, they have almost no incentive to sell. They're only willing to provide 10 cups, and that creates a huge gap.
And what happens when 30 people want coffee, but there are only 10 cups to go around? You get a shortage. In this case, a shortage of 20 cups. That means long lines, frustrated customers, and a lot of people who want to buy coffee at $2 but just can't.
So, you see, while a lower price might sound great on the surface, these kinds of controls really mess with the market's powerful signaling system. And that leaves us with a really big final question to think about. What are all the hidden costs, things like wasted time in lines, black markets popping up, or even a drop in quality, that happen when we try to interfere with the natural price of a good?